copy that you've got in your website is a very simple thing to do, but it just means that you've got that edge in terms of making sure your message is going to cut through across everybody else's.
I just wanted to mention, when going back to this comment, how many sources that Toby was reflecting on, if there are too many sources with some kind of information and you get lost. With CEO, if you devise your website in a way that it shows on the first page of Google, it would be best if you can be the first one when someone searches for your pages for your page in Google. But if you can be on the first page, you can even optimize it in a way that the first page will show your web page several times. And if a user searches, for example, Greece, Hepatitis organization in Greece, press search in Google, and then five times your page is shown, and then the user will be most likely to trust your website. Instead of opening it, bouncing, that means just clicking to open it and then exiting right now. So it's a really, really useful tool, and not just for connecting with your members, but also when you do any kind of advocacy, you want to approach your government or local or international government, you will have more strength as an organization if you have a good internet presentation. Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you. So we've looked at the main ways, the 4 key ways of doing SEO. That's videos, that's links, that's making sure you've got keywords, and the link perspective is particularly key. So use those opportunities to link in with your other organisations. If you've got other content, if you've got multiple websites, then make sure they all link up to each other. And just look for the opportunities to get your social channels on your website. So again, the sort of links to Facebook, the links to YouTube, if you've got a video on YouTube, and getting the Twitter feed on your homepage so that it's seen as regularly updated content. That's just the key thing with linking and video content. We've looked at how we can improve it, so looking at keyword tools. I can't recommend enough just logging onto Google AdWords. I said again, it's free. And you can just look at the keywords that you want to be associated with and the volumes of searches that are associated with those keywords, so you can very quickly see which the keywords are going to be most popular and therefore get you the most traffic into your sites. Web analytics, we've got a chapter later on analytics, but things like Google Analytics, making sure that's built into your website so that you can track the performance of your website is absolutely key as well. So just over to you, where, in terms of some of the websites, your own organisations, where are they currently ranking on Google? Are there keywords that you've got that are, you are optimised for? Are there sort of things that now, with this in mind, that you should be optimised for? Does anybody want to sort of volunteer any case studies?
Anyone? We have a room full of people and no volunteers at all. So we will have to resort to force you into volunteering, maybe. Maybe. You're looking at me.
I was just one question I have. Can you repeat one more time for what you're asking volunteer? Because I lost it.
Sorry,
can you repeat one more time for what you're asking volunteer, because I lost it?
The question.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So the question is, we've looked at some of the ways that we can optimise our content and get onto page 1 of Google, but how many of your websites are on page 1 of Google for quite general searches, or the searches that you would hope people would use to get your content? Where do you feature? Is it page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4? Where are you ranking in things? And if so, are you missing any of the key tricks like video content, linking, keyword searches? Just to sort of bring this into a bit more of a real life example.
So basically, have you Googled yourself? Have you?
No, we haven't Googled. We haven't tried. We always go directly, of course, to the site because we know where to search. So we were just talking about it. We would have to do that. But
Okay, so what will happen, for example, if I go online and I search for Hepatitis organization in Sweden, what will going to happen? Do you know?
We don't know what happens because we've only looked at our website. We haven't looked through Google. We haven't tried to see.
But why?
So we will do that.
When you approach your peers, doesn't matter what kind of peers, patients, the general population or anything, when you do a campaign, a media campaign, an advocacy or screening or anything like this, everyone will try to find you. And not everyone can go to your offices physically. And and sometimes you don't have an office physically, so you have to have a very good online presence. And this is why SEO is so important, and this is why content is so important. And this is why checking the statistics of your website is so important, and it's something that we've actually already discussed with our neighbor here from Greece, that if you can follow your statistics and if you can see what kind of information your peers are searching in your website, then you can build on this information.
Sorry, I have to change. Now she tells me that mine has tried and it comes up quite high. It comes up very easily. So.
Great.
Why is that? If you've got video content, why do you think it comes up highly?
Probably because, yeah, that's a good question. But varför tror du att det kommer upp? Är det för att det är på föreningens namn eller är det för att det står Hepatitis?
Vi har ju måttat in det liksom att vi är registrerade på Hepatitis.
Maybe because Mai, who isn't here, unfortunately, but maybe because she has consciously made it come up. You know, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure actually.
Vi måttade in informationen alltså. När man
Jo,
trycker på
precis.
Google så plockar de upp och då kommer det.
Men ju mer man gör så ju mer man gör.
Ja, det är att mata med information hela tiden.
Right. She will be here this evening, so I can ask her.
You had one more question?
It's not basically a question, but when you hit Hepatitis, we are number one. Hepatitis Croatia, we are number one on Google.
Fantastic.
It's a little trick because we are quite old and we have always put some fresh news. We are always trying to be. And what we are like to improve, that's your third question, I think.
Yeah.
That's a very tough one because there are many things that we would like to improve, but your suggestion is, if I'm getting it correctly, the wording doesn't have to be perfect. You can put search terms as many times as you like in some sentence, and you will appear quite high, right?
Yeah, with a slight caveat, which is that there's a bit of a, when the internet first came into being, there was a bit of a practice of keyword stuffing. So just putting a ridiculous amount of keywords into a page, and Google doesn't really like that. You can get blacklisted, and if you get blacklisted from Google, you're gone. So that, with a slight caveat, that you want to make sure you've got the words that you want to be associated with in your copy, but you cannot just sort of, you cannot just have sentences of the same word repeated.
Yeah,
And you would want to, because it would look like a rubbish website. But that, somewhere between the two.
But you can model a bit. You can toy a bit with sentences.
Definitely.
Just put it more frequent.
Definitely. So it might not be as you would read it in a newspaper, or it might not be as you would see it in your advertisement, but it might read slightly odd, but the fact is that you've written that copy with the mindset of this is going to be something that Google picks up my keyword a lot very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
So toying with content is great, and you should always explore new ways, and to stay on top of the Google search engines, you have to always innovate. When Facebook became big, everyone started including the Facebook buttons on their website, and Twitter buttons, and all kinds of other buttons, and right now you can even install a whole section with like 1,000 buttons, because there are some people who only live for their mobile devices. But what is really important is to really follow your statistics, so you don't end up in a situation like Sweden, that something is going on, it's really great, but you don't know why. If you follow your statistics and you can see, if you build a really good either Google Analytics or something else that your developers can provide to you, then you can see and you can monitor exactly where people are coming to your website. Either coming from Facebook, are they coming from Twitter, are they coming from outside sources, and which outside sources they're coming from. If you see that people are coming from Facebook, then you can devise content for Facebook, and you can push harder there. If you see that no one is coming from newspapers and you're spending thousands of euros on newspapers, then you're wasting money, you're not spending anything. So you have to know where people come from, why do they come to you, and how you can harness this group spirit and group strength. Because if you harness it, then you can push for more changes and for policy actions. But what?
No, I was just thinking that with my private website, which is something else, it always in the beginning when I put my little firm, or what you want to call it, when I put it on the website, it was or on Google. I made it consciously, I tried to make it come up on Google, but since then, it always stays on top. As soon as you Google my name, all the things will come up, and I never have to work for it. I mean, it seems like once you're there, it's very easy to keep up, because you just Google my name and everything comes up.
But there is a difference.
Okay. What is the difference?
Okay. So the difference is, if I Google the exact name of your organization, it's gonna come up. But if I'm a patient, I'm just in Sweden, a doctor just told me you have hepatitis, go home. I go home, I have Google.
There you are.
I'm not gonna find your, I'm gonna put hepatitis group Sweden, those 3 words. And I want those 3 words to direct me to you. That's why you want to make sure that if a patient is putting hepatitis Sweden group or hepatitis Sweden sports group or organization, then they go to you.
I see what you mean,
That's the perfect example of how to say, people don't search in the way that you think they do, which is why you need to check how they search on Google AdWords. So they might say organisation, they might say advice, they might say, the word that they're using, you will see on Google AdWords as being the most popular in terms of volume. So you can make sure that you're using that word in your copy of your website. So if people are mostly searching for hepatitis advice Sweden, then you can incorporate those 3 words into your copy. They're saying hepatitis organisation Sweden, that's slightly different. You can put that into your copy, or both. So that's exactly it. People very rarely put the exact search phrase into Google. It's much more general. The phenomenon is called the long tail effect, which basically means that the bulk of search engine traffic is with very general search terms, and the lesser is in the niche kind of areas. So you want to be optimized for the long tail, in essence.
Okay, I just want to mention that I did a short search in Google. I only typed hepatitis patient organization. The first entry that came out is a website by Janssen. So it's a great website, it looks fantastic, but that's not the thing that you want to see, in the browser history of your patients, and your group. Not that we don't like Janssen and we are disrespecting their work. It's just that if someone searches for a patient group, they need to find the patient group. Question, comment? Coming?
I think so that when a patient came from the doctor, he don't search for an hepatitis group, he searched hepatitis thyroid, hepatitis illness, hepatitis cirrhosis. I think it's more important that you have a long list of keys,
Totally.
but all the words, cirrhosis, fibrosis, hepatitis, thyroid, depressive, all words, and then you go to the top, and then they find you.
Absolutely. It should always be the first thing you do when you're creating a new website or a new piece of copy of the website to look. And exactly as you say, create a whole list of keywords that you want to be associated or optimized for, so that you get that traffic, or you get as much of that traffic as possible. So totally.
Number 1, but there are also super number 1. There's the firma Janssen. They pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's www.hepatitis.be. And then we are the first one not pay.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And they've only paid to be there because they can't be there naturally, because of the quality of the information, or the quality of the website that's being built. No disrespect to them, it's just that whoever built it for them hasn't built it in a way that Google will think of as being effective. So they paid just to be there, which is, none of us click on the links, so that shows that that's not the best way to do it. does anybody else just want, because for me this is a really, really important topic within the whole digital sphere. So does anybody have any other sort of learnings from their own websites? So in terms of videos, everybody raised their hand to say they've got a Twitter feed. So how many people have got a Twitter feed on their web? How many people have incorporated that Twitter feed on their website homepage? Okay, or Facebook. Because that's a really quick win in itself. You can just incorporate that content within your homepage, and immediately you've got that fresh content to boost you up through the rankings. So I personally think this is the big go-to area for the next few years. This is going to be a huge amount of revenue for different people. It's going to be very, very important. So if there's anyone with questions, then just ask or feel free to share.
I wanted to make maybe a suggestion, something that you can think about. When you talked, it was a very good comment that you said when someone exits the office of the doctor and they're searching for their disease, not a patient group. Maybe it would be a good idea if you can produce posters of your organization and you write on the posters this hepatitis patient group will deal with blah 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 something, and just add your email and have these posters in the hospitals. Then when a patient goes out of the hospital, they see that there's a patient group and then they search for you. So instead of only relying on the wording of your seat, yeah, you can use the microphone.
I think that's a very, I'm very short. I think that's a very good idea. And I just wanted to share an example because I know that the Hepatitis C Trust in the UK, they distributed business cards to the nurses and to doctors. So maybe it was more towards treatment then, but if you went to talk to your nurse, then she would give a business card to you with the address of the patient group if they wanted more support, because when you're going to a doctor, you only have 10 minutes. So this is a good idea. I'm just saying, maybe putting a poster up, great idea, maybe talking to the GP, maybe printing business cards and asking the doctors to distribute, and then so patients will know about your organizations, and this really works.
There is another thing. What we are doing, because right now we are...
Coming.
Can I speak loud enough? Okay. What we are doing right now, because we have support groups since last year, we've made posters and we distribute them in the hospitals.
I mentioned this because I remember your posters, I've seen them.
Yes, and it's not necessary to ask the doctor, doctor, please give me some business card, because the doctors are usually really busy. So, but the patient goes into the hospital and see these posters, and they are permanently there. And another thing, we've made leaflets, and we gave them to the person who prepared the protocols for the treatment, because in Bulgaria, I don't know in other countries, but when you're let's say that you're going to be on treatment, you see the doctor and then a second doctor who prepare your documents. And also we gave these leaflets to the person who prepared the documents. So when a person, or let's say future patients come, he gave him all his documents and with this leaflet, and he says, okay, you are going to be on treatment the next 6 or 12 months. You are going to experience really difficult times. So go take this leaflet and go to this group. And this is really good because many people come from there. And it's really helpful to make posters and to just distribute them into hospitals.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Someone wants to add something? Coming?
Another topic, but I think it's important from my own professional organization. In Austria, there is a big discussion about Urheberrecht, the right on your own photo, and what you are allowed to put on a website. Are there regulations or helps, or is it different in every country? In Austria now, 2 weeks ago, there will be a law that you are not even allowed to photograph someone on the street. So it will be severe, severe, severe. So in consequence, what are we allowed to post on our website?
Yeah. So for things like videos, then even in the UK, if you've captured the general public, you need to ask their permission. If you're going to publish that material on a website or on wherever you're going to publish it, you do have to ask their permission at least, because it's their face and they're maybe being associated with something that they may not want to be associated with. So you have to always ask permission. That's the same with photos, but there's no blanket ban. Obviously a country like China, you've got a very different issue with regards to what you can put on a website because of censorship. So it does definitely vary per country, but you can always seek permission from people that if you're doing some work in sort of interviews with the general public to ask them about their thoughts on hepatitis or hepatitis prevention, then all you have to do is just ask their permission from many countries. I'm not sure about the specific case in Austria, but certainly in the UK and in many European countries, video content, photography, news, etc. can all be published on websites. So you've got relatively free reign as long as you do it in an ethical way. The pharmaceutical industry obviously has a very different set of regulatory environment to be aware of. So, but that's not necessarily something that is implicit for us.
Sebastian, while we all recognize Twitter as a powerful tool, especially if you can get a celebrity to retweet your tweet, then you are absolutely number one. But most organizations struggle with content.
Yeah.
There's simply not enough fresh news for Twitter. To keep the Twitter running, you have to have tweets 4 times a week at least.
Yeah.
But most organizations, patient organizations, don't have that much fresh news. What are your recommendations?
That bridges into this presentation perfectly. So we're going to look at lots of different options in this presentation on social media.
Okay.
So that's perfect.
Thank you.
So looking at social media, this has obviously been a massive focus for many organisations over the last few years, and the sort of viral effect that you can achieve, the kind of audience numbers that you can reach through social media is absolutely massive. So for instance, if you've got a Twitter following of only 500 people, that's not huge. Each of those followers will have 200 followers, etc. And suddenly you get this huge viral effect of people retweeting your content, and from only a channel that maybe has 500 followers, you can reach millions and millions of people through the sort of effect of retweeting and through the viral community-led nature of social media. So that's why it's been such a particular focus, and I think only now we're really starting to get to the grips of what we can achieve. But the comment about the types of content we can put out there is particularly key, because we're often very time poor. We don't necessarily have somebody who can focus on our social media channels, so having something that we can quickly distribute or quickly do every day is a key way of keeping our audiences engaged. Another reason social is so important is because 35% of all people who search for social media use health as a reason to go onto social networks. So health is a really key topic. For websites, health has become the main reason why anybody goes onto the internet to conduct a search. So that gives us a huge opportunity. But the same is true, not quite to the same extent, but the same is true for social media. It's a huge reason why people go onto social media. You look at things like Pinterest, which you may have seen as an image, online pin board. There are huge numbers of disease awareness initiatives on Pinterest, things like breast cancer awareness, diabetes, etc. So the social has really become very, very health focused, and that gives us an opportunity to engage in social media from our perspectives within liver and hepatitis. Just a few statistics. So Facebook has got older. The average age of the Facebook user is now 35 years old. The infographic, which isn't particularly readable, shows that on the top right here, that Facebook users are massively engaged with brands, with organisations. So there's been a bit of a debate that social networks should just be used for conversation between peers, and brands, organisations, etc. shouldn't really have a place in this space. But actually look at the statistics, and 75% of all users of Facebook like pages to do with key organisations, with brands, etc. So it is very relevant for our messaging. With regards to Twitter, then the age demographic is much, much lower, and we're going to look at other channels as well, not just Facebook and Twitter. But for Twitter, then the average age is 18 to 25 as the predominant age group, so it's younger in its feel, it's younger in its sort of functionality. But again, even more people, about 90% of all people on Twitter engage with brands, engage with organisations, global, local. So it's very, very relevant for all of the information that we've got to engage in this space. One piece of content that we've worked on with the Hepatitis Alliance is an infographic, and we're going to probably look at more opportunities to produce infographics over the next few months and leading further into the campaign. And an infographic is essentially a summary in a very visual way. It might be that we could produce an infographic following this conference at EASL, or it might be that you have an infographic about some new data that you've got, or it might be a summary of the news over the course of a couple of weeks, what's changed. So the infographic we produced literally just lists the key transmission routes for hepatitis B and C. And this has been one of the most shared pieces of content that we've ever had on the World Hepatitis Alliance Twitter channel. And when I say share, it's been retweeted, it's got people involved, it's generated debate and conversation. So just creating something visual, rather than just a comment on news or a comment for the sake of it almost. Taking the time to produce something visual is going to be much, much more stimulating for a community, and they're going to create a lot more involvement off the back of that. So there's no news associated with that infographic. It's just a summary of facts. But as I say, it's been by far and away, the most engaged with and most socially inspired piece of content that we've actually ever produced or ever had. So that just shows the kind of opportunity can be very, very simple. If we've got something to say, let's put that into a very visual way. And given that we're on the desktops and mobiles, visual works so much better. So a nice picture. The old adage of a picture says 1,000 words is so true, and that's something that we need to do much, much more of to stimulate the communities that we have and the communities that we look to be engaging with. Just another sort of business case for Twitter almost. So this piece of research looked at the number of people who made recommendations off of the back of A, subscribing to their email, B, liking their Facebook page, and C, following their Twitter channel. And as you can see, far, far more people who followed on Twitter actually recommended to all of their peers the content that they'd seen. So that just shows that although we tend to focus on Facebook and Twitter, Twitter is a really, really strong way of being able to communicate messages, get recommendations, build advocacy, and support within your networks. And that really sings a really positive story for Twitter. So if you haven't got that set up as an organisation, you should really think about doing so and putting that planning in place in terms of who's going to manage that channel, who's going to be responsible for it, and who might want to, within the organisation, put together infographics or very visual piece of information to distribute over the channels. So looking more widely, YouTube has been a phenomenal source of information. YouTube is owned by Google. It is the second largest search engine after Google. So, that kind of representation of how important video is. So we looked at video in terms of optimizing your website by putting a video on your website. It's also fundamental for capturing this second largest search engine, that is YouTube, so having information and messages go out on that channel too. YouTube also offers the opportunity to have a commenting policy and also to actually approve any comments that go live. So when you receive a comment, you can approve it or decline it, so that if you've got that